You know, Mr. Pig, I know it's only been about 24 hours since I pignapped you and brought you to my base, but I feel like we've really gotten to be good friends ever since that latest update went live.
Lemon?
Not now, Carl. I'm taming Mr. Pig.
But we're live.
We're what? Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're all doing well. Today on my never-ending quest to make every game explode, we're going back to the land of once human. Because after absolutely demolishing the game with only throwing knives, the nice people at NetEase asked if I could test a different type of consumable, the explosives. As if you had to ask. That's right, Once Human is once again sponsoring today's video. But with that out of the way, it's time to find out. Can you beat Once Human with only explosives? Now then, considering we've already explained the world and general lore of this game in the last video we did, we won't spend any time on that this go around. Instead, we're going to dive straight into the run, and all of the problems that come with it, starting with the first issue. Why don't I have pants? I make landfall, and immediately get to work mining copper, collecting gravel, and chopping down an entire forest's worth of trees. After that, we need to find a place to build a base, which is a bit harder to do this go around now that I'm not on a content creator only server. You can definitely tell that this is the 5th most played game on Steam right now. I do some quick raiding around the area, avoiding combat completely and just stealing everything that's not nailed down, get a few levels under my belt from gathering resources and completing some of the more basic tasks, then get chased out of town by dogs. Thankfully, I have a strategy that most enemies can't compete with. Ignore self-preservation and just jump off a cliff. Works every time. Eventually, after running into a more difficult area, I was able to find some space to build, which means I can finally get to work on making myself some equipment. First things first though, we need the basics. I unlock a disassembly machine, basic gathering tools, a crafting bench, the ability to make healing items, and the most important thing of all, the synthesis bench, which will eventually let me craft my own grenades. For the time being though, progress looks like any other run. I disassemble all of my goodies that I get from raids for crafting resources, cook up pallets worth of charcoal and copper ore, then go back into nearby towns and places of interest to steal everything again. Rinse and repeat. We do run into the problem of being unable to kill enemies, which sometimes leads to some rather uncomfortable situations, but a little bit of jumping and rolling tends to fix that eventually. No, the real problem with the run is the bottleneck that we're currently stuck in. Most of the important objects I need, like a garage, are simple enough to build. All you need is copper and rusted parts, which are very easily found in towns. But other key items, like the copper pickaxe, require things that you just can't find lying around, namely hide, which can only be gotten from killing animals. No hide means no copper pickaxe. No copper pickaxe means no tin, which in turn means no further progression down the skill tree. What's worse, I can't build any grenades. You can only make grenades at a synthesis bench, and making a synthesis bench requires steel ingots, which requires the copper pickaxe. All because I can't hunt a damn deer. Now, I could just build a basic motorcycle and run over all the wildlife in a 5-mile radius and get my hide that way, but something tells me this bottlenecking problem is going to be a constant throughout the run. And sadly, I have a very short amount of time to make this video. The curse of trying to create at least one piece of content a week. So, I did what I should have done ages ago. I weaponized my community and created a guild. Welcome to the Academy, in Ignis Confidimus. Now, before anyone gets up in arms and calls this challenge run a failure, let me clarify a few things. First, I didn't force my guild members to follow the same challenge run rules as me, since that would not only be impossible to verify, but also cruel. Second, while they were more than welcome to do whatever they wished to help me fulfill my goals, I was careful to double check that whatever benefits I got from the guild were possible on my own beforehand. Anything they trade me, be it resources or items, must be obtainable before I can accept them. Think of my community as less of a cheat and more of a way to bypass the time sink that I would have to do to reach my lofty and unreasonable goals. Like frickin' pants! And third, while the community is welcome to help me skip some of the grind of the game, they are not allowed to help me with boss fights or dungeons. I'll be tackling all of those solo. Eventually, we get enough materials to upgrade to the copper pickaxe, which means a whole new level of gameplay is available to us. Oh, fun fact. Remember how broken the throwing daggers were in the last run? Well, apparently, that was an intentional choice. The damage hasn't changed since my video released. Someone tell JK Lees that he's missing out. After a bit, I reach level 5, and get to choose my first random specialization effect. Nothing super helpful here, but careful disassembly will certainly cut down on some of the grind, so that's what we'll take this go around. I followed Grasscat around, who was kind enough to hunt entire herds of deer while I harvested the bodies. Then, when I was ready to find the next tier of materials, uprooted my base to a harder section of the map so the grind could begin anew. Thankfully, we haven't reached the point where the areas are too hard to sprint through, so there's nothing stopping me from simply stealing everything I need, in between all of the harvesting of natural resources I have to do as well. And, after a bit of grinding and interacting with my community, they left me a note. We can begin to see the progress we're making on collecting explosives. Not exactly a treasure trove, but as shown earlier in the video, you can sometimes find grenades and Molotovs in chests. So we officially have a way to attack enemies now, if we need to. Just not very many of them. But hey, any shelter in a storm, am I right? It's not much, but damage is damage. No thank you, I'm not ready for you yet. However, it's probably in our best interest to act like we're ready to push forward. That way we can save time. I run around the map to activate any rift anchors I can find, since we'll need to do that anyway to fight the bosses, then push forward with the main story quests, since we'll need those to unlock the bosses as well.
You're pretty cocky for someone who doesn't even have a weapon. Quite impressive, to be honest.
Thank you! Finally, someone acknowledges my idiocy. I unlock basic gear, which in turn will give me the ability to craft the only armor I need for the entire run, the raid set. Skip through all of the lore and dialogue, then do one last bit of grinding before we tackle our first fight. The fuck is going on here? It's not much, but something tells me it'll be enough. Time for the first mini-boss, the Ravenous Hunter's Doppelganger. As far as damage from Molotovs goes, it's not a whole lot. As expected, Molotovs get the most bang for their buck when used against enemies that don't tend to move. Regular grenades though, now those have potential. Unfortunately, grenades have two separate damage values. If the explosion is close to the target, it'll do its full value, but if the target is on the outer rim of your damage radius, you'll only get half. But thankfully, regardless of a few bad tosses, we have more than enough explosives to get across the finish line. We're gonna need a lot more next time though. These shadow versions of the bosses tend to only have a small portion of the true boss's health. I continue to collect rift anchors while my community finds rogue explosives from chests, eventually collecting the 5 I need to access the obelisk where the first boss is located. After that, the guild and I get a bit more organized, and I reach level 10, unlocking another specialization. This time, we got explosives on the go, which reduces the weight of all the explosives I keep in my backpack, and increases my sprint speed for 2 seconds after throwing one, exactly what the pyromaniac ordered. Oh hey, look, it's Miss Frizzle. Wonder what field trip she's on this time. Guess she's taking a lunch. Good for her. She deserves a break after taking kids to the center of the earth and back. In other news, guess who unlocked the ability to actually craft grenades? This guy. And with my entire backpack full of liquid fire, it's time to take on the first boss, the Ravenous Hunter. Now game, that's against the rules. None of that now. Right, time to see what it's like fighting the real deal. As we saw against its shadow, Molotovs are basically unable to hurt the boss in any meaningful way. But by throwing more than one Molotov at once, I am able to create a field of fire at its feet, which helps keep the fire damage ticking nice and high. But as you can tell from my inventory down below, it took about 10 Molotovs just to get it to lose 1 health bar. At this rate, we'd need 60 well-placed Molotovs to take it down. Thankfully, Molotovs are not our only option. There's a few explosive barrels located around the map that we can throw, which work very well, and we have a few grenades and C4 packs just in case things get really bad. But after breaking the spawners around the map during the Hunter's immunity phase, we can begin round 2. This round goes much the same as the first, though a few bad tosses means I'm down to only 7 mollies left. Looks like those grenades are going to see some action after all. I was able to take out the last 2 spawners, but after running around the arena, it looks like I've also run out of explosive barrels. All we've got left is what you see in my inventory. No more, no less. I take my time, pull the pin, and throw. And after using all but 1 grenade, it's over. First try, not even close. I acquire the Festering Gel Deviant, which will act as a healer for both my health and sanity, then push forward yet again into deeper and more difficult territory. The grind continues. Thankfully, many hands make light work, and as the Firebomb Academy slowly grows, so too does the amount of explosives in our treasury. In fact, I'd argue the campus itself is starting to take shape as well. Things are starting to look— Anko, put that thing down. You don't know where it's been. No, you can't keep it. It's not safe to have animals at the Firebomb Academy. Get away, I'm allergic! But after getting the Academy main campus into a somewhat operational state, I sift through the explosives that my guild has been making for me. Looks like we've got a good number of enhanced versions now, which do incredible amounts of damage in comparison to their base version counterparts. As you can see, a regular Molotov does 262 damage, an improved Molotov does 668, and a deadly Molotov does 2,579 damage plus psi intensity. That's approximately 4 times stronger. Absolutely wild. Grenades are even crazier. I don't have any of the deadly variety to show you just yet, but the base grenade does 698 damage, while the improved version does 1,812. And that's without the psi intensity boost that all these explosives get on the side. So, with that in mind, it's time to do some crafting. I craft the entire riot set at tier 2, which has a pretty decent size stat, then go shopping for a new base location with the guild. The hardest part of the run is the fact that we always need to keep moving, delving into harder sections of the map in order to continue to find better materials for armor and explosives. But thankfully, with the ability to literally move the entire base with 2 button clicks, we at least don't have to start over every time it's time to upgrade. And with everyone working together, it's proving less tedious and more fun than I thought it would be. But you didn't come here to hear about community and teamwork, you came here for explosions. So with that in mind, let's add another side quest to the challenge, the silos. Silos are once humans' version of dungeons. Each one contains at least one boss, and are crawling with enemies and goodies in equal supply. In order to keep my supply of explosives as high as possible, I only use my base level Molotovs on the trash mobs in the silo. That way I can still kill whatever boss waits for me at the end. I also learned very quickly that Molotovs are not my friend when used improperly. But after exploring and only getting lost 2 handfuls of times, I find the mini-boss. An umbrella combined with a woman who warps around the arena while her mobs take pot shots at me. I think we might be a bit undergeared. The damage we're doing to the silo boss itself is pretty decent though, so there's still hope. Unless you go down twice in a row, and the boss uses her mirror image attack on you, mowing you into mulch while you scream at the adrenaline counter to go faster. Well, first time for everything. Turns out, using Molotovs of any kind is the wrong choice when it comes to bosses. But now we know. Mollies for mobbies, grenades for bosses. Wait, was that not even a boss? Oh god! In other news, I completely forgot to get 2 specializations before this fight. The first one we take is the explosive sack, which gives me a chance to salvage some of the resources I use when throwing explosives, and healing boost, which makes it so that I always make 1 extra healing item while crafting, and they heal me for an additional 10%. Ah, you're much more of a silo boss. That makes more sense. Well, time to practice what we preach. The worst part of using grenades is that weak points might as well not be a thing. When using a regular weapon, you can aim for specific parts of enemies that will give you more damage, but contrary to what you would think, explosives are basically guaranteed to hit, but just as guaranteed to almost never hit a weak point. But I guess that makes sense when you realize that hitting weak points doesn't matter when you can beat a boss with a few pineapple lobs. Back at base, I upgrade all of my armor to tier 3, giving me even more side damage, unlock rocket launchers, because if there's any way to hit a weak point with explosives, it's probably that, then craft some grenades to add to my stash, which is starting to run a bit low. Never mind. Looks like we have plenty. Well, in that case, time to chase after boss number 2, the Treant. I make sure to equip some new skills into the 2 slots I've unlocked on my cradle, namely the Master Tactician skill, which gives me 25% extra damage against bosses, and Rapid Aid, which reduces the cooldown of healing items by 30% and makes them 15% stronger. Take a quick detour to take down the Balloon Man who killed me so many times in the throwing knife run, the smiley bastard, then find my way down into the second obelisk. Now then, let's see how well a giant hunk of moving wood does against fire and explosions. Well, the tangled vines certainly don't like my Molotovs, so that's a good sign. And as for the Treant itself, yep, it's definitely burning. Considering the Treant barely moves, Molotovs are actually the better choice for this fight, doing upwards of 1200 damage per explosive with the fire reaching its maximum stack of 124 per tick. Poor guy never stood a chance. Second boss down, moving right along. I put the sprint node into my new cradle slot, which gives me faster movement speed and longer sprint times, then return back to base to calibrate my armor, which I've neglected to do up to this point. Because I am an intellectual giant, don't you know? You know the rotation by now. Activate 5 Rift Acres around the area, learn very quickly why motorcycles and airplanes are not the same thing, learn very quickly why motorcycles and horses are also not the same thing, then fly my way over to the next obelisk. You know, just the usual gameplay loop. Definitely not a series of skill issues on my part or anything. Anywho, time for the third boss, Araxium. Back when I fought her with throwing knives, I really struggled against this boss due to some difficult mechanics, very hard to hit weak points, and a surprisingly large health bar. However, judging by the numbers we're seeing, that might not be a problem this go around. In fact, after only a minute into the fight, Araxium is already 33% of the way dead and entering phase 2. Now, I did bring my rocket launcher with me in the hopes of destroying the eggs that she hides in the far reaches of the arena, and it does work, but guess who foolishly forgot to upgrade his rocket launcher? Luckily for me, baby spiders are very susceptible to being set on fire, so a few Molotovs are more than enough to clear any mobs that spawn. But without a better rocket launcher and a large quantity of rockets to shoot, we're just gonna have to wait it out like last time. Because I can definitely confirm that throwing explosives at the eggs is the opposite of what you want to do. Trust me. A few more grenade tosses against Shelob gets her into phase 3, bringing her back to her immunity phase, but then I found something strange. I'm not sure why, but despite not killing all of the new batch of eggs, and Araxium still hiding on the center pillar, she can still be hit with Molotovs. Like, really hit with Molotovs. We're talking upwards of 2,000 damage, with 179 fire damage per tick. I'm not sure if this is a bug. No, that's not a pun. Spiders are arachnids. Come on now. But when it comes to challenge running, we have 3 words that describe moments like this. We take those. And so, with 3 of the 4 bosses dead and buried, the cycle begins anew. I jam agility into my cradle, giving me a defense bonus for 4 seconds whenever I dodge roll, pour over the Firebomb Academy's efforts with a sense of awe and satisfaction, then skip my way through the final quest before the 4th boss. Then I get lost in a spooky hallway maze for a few minutes. Oh, you better not move when I look away. And then, after an hour or so of preparation, it's time. Time for the 4th and final boss, the Shadowhound. Only one problem. All that damage and all those grenades don't seem to be doing much. The Hound constantly moves around, causing my grenades to miss their mark. And even when they do hit, the nearly 5,000 damage they do is barely moving his health bar at all. This could be a problem. And it only got worse from there. Because I'm up close and personal for a good portion of the fight, I can't seem to avoid his suction attack. And with all the hits I'm taking, the durability of my equipment is starting to look pretty tattered, which means my defense is getting worse as the fight goes on. And then there's the phase transition. During this time, the Shadowhound grows a pair of mouths on its shoulders, and until these mouths are destroyed, the Hound might as well be immune to your damage. Remember how grenades can't really hit weak points? Boy, that sure sucks right about now, huh? Slowly but surely, the Hound keeps knocking me down, taking away my revival chances. And unlike every other flying enemy I've fought so far, these mobs that the Hound summons are unaffected by my grenades. Oh sure, I can shoot them with my rocket launcher, but guess who still forgot to upgrade it? So, with a heavy heart and a much lighter backpack, I back out of the fight. There's simply no way we can beat it in our current state. But this is the Backlogs. Brick walls might as well be wet paper when I'm around. All I need is a little pick-me-up, and we can get back into the fight. And what better place to do that than our second silo? The enemies here cook up real good, so there's no issues with any of that. And the mini-boss at the end of the silo, Captain Dave II, is more than happy to trip over some C4 I left on the ground. That wasn't bad at all. There was also a second battle hiding inside the silo, where you shrink down to child size and fight against waves of enemies, but it wasn't too bad once I realized what was happening. Thankfully, my grenades stole the show, and were able to wipe out entire waves of enemies as they appeared. So when a giant claw machine showed up and tried to kill me near the end of the waves, we were just fine. 2 silos down, 2 more to go. The next silo was a bit more difficult, with enemies jumping up to level 35. But 2 Molotovs and a little bit of burning damage is enough to kill any trash mobs that I bump into. And after making my way through what appears to be some sort of prison portion of the silo, some spooky lore implications there, I find myself on a mock-up of a city street, where I suddenly have to play the children's game Red Light, Green Light. When it's a green light, you can move as much as you want, playing like normal. But if you move during a red light, you get frozen in place while enemies beat you to death, and Sticky Keys reminds you that rapidly pressing the shift button can't save you now. So, yeah, don't do that. Also, remember that fun mechanic where you can't throw grenades into open spaces for some reason? Yeah, that's a thing here again. Is this what it's like fighting me? Just a small object flying towards your face and then you're suddenly dead or dying? Am I the monster here? Eventually I figured out that I just need to use my rocket launcher to kill the beastie, but guess who still hasn't upgraded it? I upgrade my rocket launcher to tier 4, then calibrate it as many times as I can, drastically increasing the damage it can do. So that's a bit better. Then, just to make sure we're maximizing our damage output, I upgrade all my armor to tier 4 as well, increasing my defense and damage at the same time. Then, after some quick calibration and making sure everything is as maxed out as it can go, we're just about ready to finish the run. I restock my backpack full of the explosives that the Firebomb Academy has been dutifully crafting this entire time, and go back to the Shadowhound to try the boss fight once more. And wouldn't you know it, upgrading my armor to the appropriate tiers seems to have done the trick. What is that, double the damage of before? And don't get me started on the rocket launcher. That thing went from doing 300 damage to doing 3,000. But there's still one problem. The Hound moves very fast, and while the rocket launcher does let me aim, it's a small area to aim for. But after missing more rockets than I care to admit, I finally predict the boss's movement enough to get the hit, which means it's back to dodging lasers and jamming the grenade button as fast as my computer will let me. There is still the problem of the Hound's super slam attack though. I'm supposed to hit the Hound multiple times before it's able to attack, but the only weapon I have that can reach it is my rocket launcher, and I simply can't reload fast enough to do enough damage, which means instant death for me every time it goes off. But with a few lucky throws near the Shadowhound's mouth, and dodging the boss like my real-life responsibilities, the Shadowhound finally bites the dust, proving that yes, you can in fact beat once human with only explosives. The main bosses are easily the hardest targets on our list. The silo mini-bosses don't even compare. So, while I clean up the last few silos on our list, I just wanted to acknowledge the community members that joined me on this explosive expedition. This run was absolutely a group effort, and I couldn't have done it without them. Whether it was crafting explosives for the run, which is a Herculean effort in itself, explaining in-game mechanics in order to help create strategies to get that victory screen, or organizing and setting up a base that any guild could be proud of, you all played a part, and I can't thank you enough. Oh, I also have to thank you all for pointing out that there was, in fact, a grenade launcher option that we could have been using the whole time. You all pointed it out a bit late, but better late than never, I guess. I love this community we've made together. A band of people who believe that sometimes it's more fun to struggle than it is to succeed, and who understand that the real joy of a challenge comes from helping each other reach the finish line. And reach it we have. But despite the run being over, that's not the end of the video, because there was one other thing that the Firebomb Academy did while I was beating Cthulhu back with explosions. They built the Firebomb Academy itself. Hello, and welcome to FBA. As you enter the stairway to the Academy, you'll behold the light of those that came before you, immortalized in candlelight. Remember their sacrifice. It is because of them that we know exactly how long you have to throw a grenade after pulling the pin. The Grand Hall, the beginning of your adventure. Where will it take you? Well, that depends on your studies. You could apply your love to shop class, learning how to create tiny explosions that keep this world moving, or you could take something a bit more daring, like learning how to make timed devices. All of our classes, whether advanced like Dampening Techniques 402 or basic groundwork like Gunpowder 101, take place in beautiful, fully furnished classrooms, complete with study materials, for those of you that can read anyway. But we here at the Academy understand the importance of applying what you study, and offer a selection of safe practice ranges for any student who wishes to use them. And when you're done with your studies and ready to relax, you can let the ringing in your ears fade in one of our many relaxation stations around the campus. Built conveniently between campus buildings, you and your fellow students can take the edge off outdoors, or if the baking desert sun is too much for you, there's plenty of indoor recreation areas as well. Let the soothing motion of local fish calm the never-ceasing ticking in your mind, and enjoy artistic luxuries, collected and assembled to give you the inspiration you need for your next big project. And when you're ready to turn in for the day, you can rest easy in one of our completely furnished student dormitories, bed not included. Every dormitory comes complete with a makerspace to help you with whatever wild idea you came up with at 3 a.m., as well as a rooftop patio, for those of you who do better when looking up at the stars next to a warming bonfire. Or if exhilarating feats and death-defying stunts are more likely to get your brain turning, there's always the local stunt course, jokingly known by the students as the Yeet Ramp. Just be sure to sign a safety waiver first. And when you're healed up from your brush with death and feeling a bit peckish, you can get a bite to eat at the Academy cafeteria. Or you can dine at the Grub and Gunpowder, our on-campus bar and grill. And don't worry, we know that bringing life back into the world to balance out the death you deal is important, which is why we at the FBA have invested in the development of our South Campus, the Agricultural Center. Feel the fine mist against your skin at the Goddess's Greenhouse, where anything green can grow. Or visit Firebomb Farms, our local animal husbandry facility, where a collection of local wildlife are cared for by students in teams of 2. Because we here at the FBA know that animals can be just as explosive as our students. But what if you're an old hand when it comes to explosives? Well, if you're looking to share that knowledge with the next generation of pyromaniacs, good news, we're hiring. And don't worry about finding new living arrangements. Our staff are able to live on campus in staff-only dorms, complete with your very own common room bathroom, as well as... Carl, cut the camera. Cut the camera, as well as a staff break room, because we know that cleaning the soot off your clothes for the 4th time that day can be exhausting. And regardless of whether you're student or staff, the door to Headmaster Lemon's office is always open. Don't mind the mess. He may always be editing the next video, but your concerns and comfort are one of our top priorities. So come on down to the FBA. We're located 45 miles past the Abyss and just down the road of the Void. FBA, in Ignis Confidimus. Oh, hey, you're still here. You need something? Oh, you heard there was a recent update with Once Human. Yeah, sure, I can explain what's new. As you might have noticed in the Firebomb Academy footage, the latest update to Once Human added ranching. When out and about in the wild, several different types of fauna can be weakened and then captured with tranquilizer darts. Simply bring the animal back to your base and drop it in a pen of your making, and presto, ranching begun. From here you'll need to make feeding troughs and give the animal food and water. Oh, and don't put 2 aggressive animals in the same pen together. They don't like that. If you take good care of your new friend, they'll slowly begin to trust you, opening up new interactions like resource gathering, or even fighting alongside you in the wilderness. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you can tame a pack of wolves and have them fight Cthulhu. Assuming you can get them to stop trying to kill you anyway. Once Human also changed their bosses to make them harder. Apparently, when you kill a boss with nothing but throwing knives and consumable explosives, the devs take notice. So, sorry about that. But hey, at least they didn't nerf throwing knives. If you join a server that has the hard tag, you might find that some of the bosses are a little harder to take down, with new spicy moves for you and your team to deal with. The world itself will also be more difficult, with higher energy and hydration loss, deviants having more health and reaction speed, and the chance of new enemies called super anomalies spawning in dungeons. The Deviant Invasion tag here will show you what kind of monsters you'll run into on a particular server. For example, this server has to deal with monsters that now have shields or recover their health after taking damage. Rough stuff, but I wonder how well they hold up against a grenade. I hope you're ready, because any future challenge runs I do in this game are gonna have a lot more game overs. Can't wait. There's also a new skin set available as well, the Psychedelic Skull set. Because why blow up Cthulhu in normal clothes when you can blow him up in style? It has a cool little glitch effect, so that's pretty neat, and it goes well with the fire motorcycle. Oh, did I forget to mention the fire motorcycle? Perfect for those long strolls across the wilderness, the Pyroglide takes heated seats to a whole new level. You know, with all these fire-based skins, I'm starting to think Once Human might be hiding in my walls. There's even a lemon-themed crossbow. Is that a hint? Is that the next challenge? I don't know. But in any case, that's all I've got. Take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and I'll see you all again soon.